Mr. Maponya, allow us to be on the same page with you. How much time are you left with cross-examining of Mr. Monacheng?
Madam Chair, I would say 25 minutes or so.
No, you started at 12:15.
Yes, but be that as it may, Madam Chair, I'll just use 15 minutes at best.
Yes.
15 minutes.
As I said, I take a dim view if you don't keep to time limits.
Indeed so.
These time limits are set for a purpose.
Indeed so, Madam Chair, and thank you for that indulgence. Before we took an adjournment, I wanted leave, but I am abandoning that leave to refer to something that is not before us now. I'll just touch on just 3 aspects, 5 minutes each, then that will be it, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Monacheng.
Afternoon, sir. Afternoon.
In your evidence, you had stated that you did a walkabout in 2019, am I right?
No, not a walkabout, sir. What I stated in 2019, if I recall memory serves me well, it was a blitz that was conducted by city different departments in Usindiso building. I've never been to Usindiso building prior to the 31st of August. 31st of August 2023.
In your evidence, you had stated you had alluded to different types of alarms that were issued out during the period of the fire. Can you just clarify alarm 1, alarm 2, alarm 3, and the severity of those alarms, and how can you deviate from those alarms in any circumstances?
Okay. Just want to check on the peg. So it's better if you can reference to a document, then I can unpack it for you. I don't know if you've got anything in writing that can maybe look into it.
No, I'm saying to you, you had referred to various alarms. Alarm 1, alarm 2, alarm 3. Just a quick summary of those alarms.
All right,
yes.
then. All right, alarm 1 will be a summon of the fire crew or rescue crew to an incident. As soon as they arrive on scene, the senior officer or the officer in charge will do a 360 assessment. That's what we term it as a 360 assessment of the incident. We can use the Usindiso building as one example. He'll then do his own assessment. Having looked at the magnitude and severity of the fire incident itself, he can then decide to escalate the alarm to alarm number 2. In alarm number 2, that's when other additional resources will be called upon to come on scene, come and assist. Then once alarm 2 has been attended to, and the second responding officer, in this case, if he wants to, they can escalate to alarm number 3. Actually, all these alarms are saying we need additional resources and capacity in that regard. And why there's different alarm systems in this case, it's for incident management purpose. It's how we manage the incident in different levels. In my testimony, I said I responded to alarm number 3. I don't normally respond to incidences. No officer will phone me just for the sake of alarm 1 and say I want to go and see. We should certify all these kind of aspects. We should tick all the boxes and make sure that everybody who is responsible, in particular sort of alarming on this kind of event, they've been summoned, they've responded on scene, they've contributed to their own best ability on this kind of issue. I said in alarm 1, it was Mr. Tipe. Alarm 2, it was Mr. Mbata. Alarm number 3, who summoned me, it was Mr. Masinge, up until I got on scene.
Ms. Songo?
Imibuto iyachubeka ke excuse me. Ummeli ke uqala ubuta umbuto wecala ukuthi ngo-2019 kwaba khona kuhamba laba kwendako kulesakhiwo sase Usindiso njengebamfu bakafaya uyaveta ke fakazi ukuthi cha ke akazange akakwende unelwadi nje lokuthi iminyango lehlukahlukene yelidolobha laseJozi yake yahamba kusho ukuthi waveta ukuthi yena akazange nje ake aye kulesakhiwo sase Usindiso ngaphambi kwalelanga lamhla ka 31 August lelanga lapho khona kwaba khona lo mlilo bekangazange seke aye vele ngaphambilini. Ummeli ke futhi uyamcela ukuthi ucela abe nekucacisa ngoba kuvetiwe ngaphambilini ebufakazini ukuthi kune ma-alarm lahlukene kathathu, alarm 1, alarm 2 na alarm 3. Acacise ukuthi asho kuthini mhlawumbe abuyekede ukuthi yonke yomithathu lama alarm asho kuthini. Uyaveta ke ukuthi alarm 1 usho ukuthi ngulesikhathi base babacela ukuthi bayi noma phecelezi ngesingisi babasamona ukuthi kunesigameko thite lesendekile bese ke labo labasebenza cima lomlilo bayakhishwa nabafika lapha njengoba kile waveta ecaleni ukuthi nakaye kuphuma incola yecima umlilo kuba khona sikhulu noma officer la khathi leso sikhulu leso noma le officer leyo ibeyaye bese yenda licwaningo nayifika lapho noma liphenyo labalibita ngakuthi i360 yes bayibita ngakuthi lingi 360 lusho ukuthi uyabuka ukuthi ingabe lo mlilo unjani mukhulu kangakanani futhi usabisa kangakanani lizinga lawo lisethu kangakanani nangabe abona ukuthi cishe ngathi njengoba bona bafikile naleli cembu lakhe la kafike nabo utawubehlula noma mukhulu bese ke so uyacela ukufaka isicelo sokuthi kube khona labetako lapho ke kusuke sekufike ku alarm 2 maka bafika ke futhi lenye incola leto basita nayo leyo ncola leyo iyaye ifike ihamba kanye kanye nesikhulu iofficer nayo ke le officer nayo ifike yena lalo licwaningo mayibona ukuthi cha nembala lo mlilo cishe unemandla mkhulu uyabe ngama babodvana ubese naye uyachubeka ke ufuna ucela lelinyo lisito lapho ke sekufike kulo alarm 3 excuse me kulo alarm 3 bese ke futhi ka alarm 3 bede ke batosile uyachaza ke mfakazilana ukuthi yena kulesigameko sase Usindiso bamthinza sekufike kulo alarm 3 kahle kahle akukavami ukuthi avanye ubavame ukuthi bamthinze ukuthi aze atofika la kwendeka khona isigameko kunaloko nje kuyaye kube ukuthi uma kusese kulo alarm 1 bayamatisa nje ukuthi bayaphuma bayenza wenithitele nemlilo bayocima khona noma bayolekelela khona so yaveta ke ukuthi kulo sehlakalo semlilo lesaba khona kulesakhiwo sase Usindiso ku level 1 umuntu fulo wakhona ukuthi aphume kulo alarm 1 noma kube abengilotfolakalako ku alarm 1 kwaba nguthipe bese ke ku alarm 2 kwaba ngumbatha bese ke ku alarm 3 kwaba
Masinga.
kwaba ngumasini.
Mr. Maponya.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I just want to go back to the timelines we will start our tracks of the application for cross-examination. So with me here, I don't know if Madam Chair and Mr. Monaching have the data mining of the COJ in terms of the call log. Data mining, the call logs.
The call logs, or the data for the call logs. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
It's termed data mining COJ export here.
Yes.
So in number 36 and number 37 will be the crux of what I will lead you on. Which is 36, the call that was made by Mr. Let's go back, Mr. Siabonga, or a person by the name of Siabonga. Then 37 was made by a person by the name of Lisa. So, upon looking and analyzing these two calls that were made on that particular day, the first call, call 36, refers to Moy Street, and the second call refers to Delva Street. which was made by Lisa. Then the call that was made by Lisa describes that the building is on fire. Then the call by a person by the name of Siyabonga refers to flat on fire. So this was run about the same time, or about the similar time and circumstances. Now, upon analyzing the timelines and analyzing the ESS report, the incident report, and I believe that, Madam Chair, you have sight of the report. It refers to a caller named by Mr. Siyabonga, which was an earlier call which was made at around 01/1937. That was the time. But in the report that Mr. Monageng has provided, the timelines refers to the timelines as alluded for a person of the name of Lisa. So I just wanted clarity as to what informed the report and what standard did you use in terms of selecting those calls, and why did you determine that the call by a person of Lisa was prudent for you to edit on your report?
So I know before the commission I cannot ask questions, but just for the sake of clarity, I'm lost. I said in my report that I've signed, I've never put any name of the caller.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, you made mention of Moy Street, Delva Street, the call is on fire. For me, I'm lost, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know where you draw information from, but if you put something before me, and I could agree and say, this is my reporting from the department, I can try to take you and unpack it for you. But for now, you're reading something before yourself, and you want me to understand what you're reading. You're comparing two documents, which I've got no sight of.
Okay. Earlier on, I put it to you that, do you have this document? Then you were perusing. So I thought maybe you had. Maybe with assistance, can I get the ESS incident report and the data mining just for sight of the witness?
Yes, where is the document? Is this report within the knowledge of the witness?
Indeed so. I like
Is
to
it a report that was compiled by him?
No, it's an ECC incident report, and the one it's a call log. So I just wanted to,
So how is it related to his evidence?
in terms of the timelines, so there's discrepancies. in
Was
terms-
the report compiled by him?
The report compiled by him, it alludes to a certain timeline, but there's a certain call that was not included or was omitted in a certain way. So I just wanted to clarify as to, in his report, did they use the first caller or the second caller, and what is the standard there?
Yes, I'm still at a complete loss. Mr. Nyandu, do you want to assist me?
Thank you, Chairperson. I will attempt to assist. Mr. David Tabe, who is an official of the City of Johannesburg employed in the AMS department, testified as to the ESS report. The document that my learned friend refers to is not within the purview of this witness. Mr.
Yes.
Monageng has not testified about it and it did not form part of his statement. as it were.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Maponya,
Yes,
the
Madam Chair.
document has not been testified to by this witness. So what's the relevance of the question?
So the question refers to, Madam Chair, to the aspects of time, because there's discrepancies as to the first call.
If
and
he has not compiled the report, how is he going to respond to that question?
No, I wanted to put to
If
him.
if he has not testified to that report, nor is he aware of that report, how is he going to be able to explicate as to the time difference?
I
You see
understand.
the unfairness of the question.
I understand
Yes.
the extent of the unfairness of my question.
Yes.
But I was saying to the commissioner and the commission that it is important, it's just a simple ECC incident report.
No, it
That-
can't be that simple. I mean, it's something, he has to testify to something that is within his knowledge or something that he has had sight of. So it can't be that simple.
Yes, Madam Chair, I do not wish to labor on.
Yes, you may proceed with your next line of cross-examination.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Shokuthi imibuto iyene yaqhubekela phambili. Ummeli bekafuna caciseleka mayelana netincingo letimbili letashaywa letisuka kulela bhilidi lela ngesikhathi kusha lo mlilo. Uvetile ukuthi kuna number 36 umuntu lo wa4 lo washaya licingo na number 37 lo 36 shisi wenda washaya licingo qala. Sikhathi la kashaya ngaso cishe kwaba ngu1 1 o'clock ekuseni na 19 minutes and 37 seconds umbita ngakuthi ngusiyabonga lo siyabonga ke cishe yena walishaya lo licingo isignal yakhe yathatha ukuthi ungaku Moy Street bese kuba khona lo munye longilisa yena washaya cishe kwathatha isignal yokuthi ungaku Delva Street. So ummeli ke bekacela ukuthi acacise Mr. Mnumzane Monageng njengafakazi ukuthi njengoba sikhathi lebe basishido ukuthi licingo langena ngaso akusiso lesi sikhathi la kashaya ngalo licingo siyabonga cishe ngilesi lewashaya ngayo ngaso ulisa. Manje ke umeli ufuna ukuthi kwateke kahle ukuthi basebenta kanjani ukuthi basebenzise siphi isikhathi tikhona yini tinqanabelelwana labanato ukuthi wo sisebenzisa lesi ngesizathu sekuthi noma ngezizathu sekuthi. Kepha ke njengoba Mr. Monageng asho ukuthi akakase yena ebufakazini bakhe afake igama lemuntu ukuthi ngubani lo washaya licingo nokuthi ngibani isikhathi la leyo muntu lo washaya ngasiphi isikhathi futhi se uvela netitalati bo Moy Street nabo Delva Street info la kangayadi ucela ukuthi kucaciseleke ukuthi kahle ngutiphi impemvu etibhekeke ukuthi atisho uyasita ke lo munye ummeli ukuthi cha kahle ngumnumzane David Thabe lo ngakhona kusho kahle ukuthi kwaba kanjani ngoba cishe ngathi nguye lo waba nesandla ekusiteni ngale ESS report labakhuluma ngayo waseke na Madam Commissioner waveta ukuthi njengoba angazange umnumzane Monageng akusho ngalokuconzile noma kubhalwe phansi ngalokuconzile nguye ukuthi ngusiphi isikhathi nokuthi nguliphi igama lemuntu labathatha kuye licingo angeke akhona ukuphendula leyo mibuto leyo sechubekela phambili ke.
Thank you for that. Now, I put it to you that had there been proper equipment and expertise within the Johannesburg Fire Department, the severity of the fire would have been less and the damage would have been even more less.
I'm not agreeing with you. So in my earlier testimony, I told you, and I've responded with respect, is that for Usindiso building, we had sufficient equipment that responded to the incident. Now, when you say to me, had it been sufficient equipment to the incident, I'm asking based on what? Because we've met the South African national standards, we've dispatched the relevant equipment with personnel, therefore it was a fire incident that you had to fight.
Umuntu olandzelako ke uyabuta ke ummeli ukuthi kube kuthiwa lelitiko letemlilo fire department betinato tinsita letifanele ngabe umonakalo lo wendeka kulesakhiwo sase Usindiso waba umonakalo ngabe waba mncane uyaveta ke fakazi ukuthi cha akahambelana lokho lakakushoko ngoba njengoba bekavetile ekuqaleni kwebufakazi bakhe kwekuthi bona njengelitiko laka letiko letemililo laka fire banato tonke tinsita futhi banabo bamvula abaqeqeshiwe labakufanelekele futhi baphendvula ngendlela lefanele nakumele baya Usindiso. So ake visisi kahle ukuthi kahle ummeli uthi akathi noma aphendvule athi ngoba sovetile ukuthi banako tonke tinsita futhi benda njalo kapha nabayosita Usindiso.
Can I maybe just expand on the same issue? It's not only me that says that. Before this commission, Mr. Engelbrecht Weinand attested to this commission that he is in agreement of, say, EMS City of Johannesburg responded professionally, they were adequately resourced, there were no issues you could raise against us in the same space. Therefore, this doesn't only come to myself, The gentleman that came before this commission, he also attested to the same space.
Kungeta nje kuloko la labeka kushido umnumzane Monageng uyaveta ukuthi ngaphambilini kwake kweta umnumzane Arnold naye lebeka chamuka khona etiko la kafaya noma letemlilo washo ukuthi leli tiko leli belinato tonke tinsita ne lebetidzingeka ukuthi babe nato uma baya lapha kule Usindiso building kwenda kwabo futhi bakwenda ngelizinga lebantfu vele labawulungele lo msebenzi pheceleti professionally ngakho ke umnumzane Monageng akaboni lokuthi yini le shodako noma lengekho ngoba akasiwe kucala kutalana ngaphambi kwekomishini ukuthi oveta ukuthi bona cishe benda konke lokusemandleni abo kwenda umsebenzi wabo futhi bayaciniseka ukuthi bawenda ngendlela lefanele.
Madam Chair, the aspect of time was the crux of the application for cross-examination, so
Yes.
that's as far as I can take it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Maponya. Mr. Boloto?
No questions for the witness, sir.
Yes. Mr. Mnyandu? You take re-examine?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There won't be any questions
Yes.
of re-examination.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Monageng, thank you very much again for coming to give evidence before this commission. You are excused as a witness.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Advocate Muloto?
Madam Chairperson, Madam Commissioner, we proceed this afternoon with the admission into evidence of 14 profiles of the deceased. I will allow the files to be placed before you before I commence.
Are you proceeding with the big file or the small file?
There should be 3 files in front of you. I'm proceeding with the one marked unidentified, volume 1.
Yes.
Before presenting additional profiles, there's 2 updates on that file that I would like to refer you to. The first update appears on page 29A. It's a new page, 29A, on that file. It's under profile number 2767. The profile was previously unidentified. At pages 29A and 29B would be firstly a statement on 29A by P.J. Ndembo confirming his appearance before a forensic officer identifying the deceased body as being that of O Time. And page 29B would be the forensic officer's section 212 affidavit confirming the appearance of P.J. Ndembo before him and the identification of the deceased body of O Time. We would request that pages 29A and B be admitted as addenda to profile number 2767. 2767, which was previously exhibit number PRU4.
It is so admitted.
Moving on to the next update. That will be on page 161. The update is numbered 161A and B. And this refers to profile number 2791. Similarly, it is a statement on oath by a P.J. Mlambo confirming their identification before a forensic officer of a Mr. X.B. Milambo. Page 161B would be the forensic officer's section 212 affidavit confirming that the said identification occurred before him. We would then request that pages 161A and B be admitted as addenda to profile number 2791, previously marked exhibit PRU 15.
Is so admitted.
And then the next presentation commences on the last orange flag in the same file. It is a page numbered 225 on the top right-hand corner. The actual profile starts on page 227. As with the other profiles, on 227 would be a Sergeant Khomu from SAPS acknowledging a retrieval of a body that they hand over to Mr. Tobani. Body is said to be retrieved from Delvas and Albert Street on the date of the incident in question, 31 August. And the description of the body at the bottom is said to be bent. The next document in the chain is on page 229. That is Tobani acknowledging in the form of a section 212 affidavit receipt of the body in a charred state. Page 230 would be the forensic officer's confirmation that he pointed out and identified the body to the doctor tasked with conducting the medical legal report. The medical legal report appears on page 231, and below Roman figure 4, the cause of death is described as open flame burns. There is no notation in the medical report on page 233 of the retention of any sample for purposes of identification. The doctor lastly executes his section 212 affidavit confirming that the report confirming the cause of death was compiled according to, that he was qualified to compile that report. That will be on page 235. We would request that profile number 2806, a documentation be admitted as exhibit number PRU 22.
So admitted.
The next profile commences on page 238. An SAP 180 form confirming the retrieval of the body by SAPS and its delivery to the forensic office. The body is confirmed to having been retrieved from Albert and Delvas on the 31st, and that the deceased was bent beyond recognition. At 2:40, the forensic officer acknowledges receipt of the body handed over to him by subs. At page 241, the forensic officer on duty confirms having pointed out and identified the body to the doctor responsible for conducting the medical examination. The outcome of the examination is on page 242, and the cause of death is noted below letter B as being consistent with burns. On page 243 would be a recordal of a sample that was retained for purposes of analysis. That sample is accounted for in our exhibit number VIC 1 under paragraph 3.6.2.1 as having been properly handled and delivered at the lab. The outcome of the analysis is outstanding. At page 244 would be the doctor's 212 certificate confirming that he compiled the medical legal report with the necessary skill and knowledge. We would request that the chain of documents under profile number 2781 be admitted as exhibit number PRU 23.
So admitted.
And the last presentation on this Liver Act file commences on page 247. Yet again, SAPS confirms retrieval of a body from Albert Street on the 31st, and it's handed over to the forensic office. There is a description of the state in which the body is found at the bottom of page 247. The deceased died due to inhalation of smoke. At 249, the forensic officer acknowledges receipt of the body as burned. Subsequently, a forensic officer on duty on the 2nd of September confirms pointing out and identifying the body to the doctor assigned to examine and report on the body. The report commences on page 251, and at the bottom of Roman figure 4, the cause of death is recorded as partial skin thickness burns and smoke inhalation. On page 253 of the medical legal report is a recordal of a retention of a sample, a DNA sample for purposes of analysis. And once more, that sample is accounted for by SAPS in exhibit VIC1, which confirms that it was properly handled and handed over to the lab at paragraph 3.1.2.6 thereof. And then lastly, on this profile would be the section 212 certificate of the doctor who compiled the medical report confirming that he is qualified to do so. In relation to the chain of documents for profile number 2749, we request that they be admitted as exhibit number PRU 24.
So admitted.
We then move to the file marked chain of documents identified volume 2. This would be a continuation of what is now volume 1. And the profile in question will commence on page 454.
454. It starts at 488.
Apologies, Madam Chairperson, that's correct. It should start at 488. The actual chain of documents follow the summary, and they commence at page 490. The profile number is 2779. On 490, yet again, confirmation of retrieval of a body from Delvas on the 31st of August. The body is described as deceased bent beyond. The word recognition must be on the second page. It is on 491. And the body is given to Tobani of the forensic officer, who confirms its receipt on page 492. Tobani yet again points out the body and identified to a doctor tasked with compiling the report. That's at 493. Having examined the body, the doctor reports on page, commencing on page 394, amongst others, that the cause of death, which appears just above the signature, is 4th degree burns and smoke inhalation, carbon monoxide. On page 497 is confirmation of a retention of a sample for analysis purposes. And that sample is properly accounted for in our exhibit number VIC1 at paragraph 3.1.2.7 as having been properly handled and handed over to the lab for analysis. On page 498 would be the doctor's 212 certificate confirming that he or she was qualified to prepare the report. The next two pages, 499 and 500, are firstly at 499, a statement by a T.N. Shange on oath, confirming the appearance before the forensic officer to identify a body profile number 2779 as that of S. Seme, and the forensic officer confirms the identification before him on page 500. We would request that the chain of documents under profile number 2779 be admitted as exhibit number PR 35.
PRU.
This is now PRI,
PR.
yeah, PRI
Yes.
35.
PR.
I 35.
PRI 25.
35.
35.
35. The next profile commences on page 490. Confirmation of retrieval of the body from Delvas Street on the 31st. State is described as deceased, bent, beyond recognition. 492 is confirmation of receipt of the body so retrieved by the forensic office. On page 493, the forensic office confirms, pointing out that very same body and identifying it to the doctor appointed to examine and report. The doctor reports from page 494, and the cause of death just above the signature is noted as 4th degree burns and smoke inhalation. At 497 is confirmation of retention of a DNA sample, which is once more properly accounted for in Exhibit VIC 1 at paragraph 3.1.2.7. Pending the, before then, at page 498 would be the doctor's affidavit confirming his qualifications to examine and report. Pending the outcome of the analysis of the DNA sample, it appears the deceased has since been identified. That appears on page 499. A statement on oath by a T.T. Shange confirming that she identified the body as that of S. Seme before a forensic officer who confirms that exercise in identifying the deceased at page 400. We would request that the chain of documents under PR number 2779 Chairperson, it appears that I was repeating the same profile that I went through.
Yes.
I have handled 2779 twice. I'll move to 2789. It seems to me that it was repeated in my bundle of documents. Apologies for that.
Are you now going to profile number 2789?
Let me go to 27. I did 2779. I think I should have done 2747. I should do. Let me see. 2789 indeed. 2789. The profile commences on page 503. At 503 is confirmation of retrieval of the body from Usindiso, Albert and Delvas on the 31st. The body condition is described as deceased, bent beyond recognition, and that it was handed over to the forensic officer. They acknowledge receipt of that body on page 505. The pointing out and identification of the body is confirmed by the forensic officer on page 506 to the doctor appointed to examine and report. The output of his examination is on page 507, and the cause of death is described as consistent with smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide levels. On page 510, the doctor confirms retention of a sample for analysis. That is accounted for in Exhibit VIC 1 at paragraph 3.8.2.3. The doctor's qualification to examine and report is at page 511. At 512 is a statement on oath by a VM Ajida, confirming identification of that body before a forensic officer as being that of K. Diamond. The forensic officer acknowledges the exercise of identification on page 513. Would request that body profile number 2789 be admitted as exhibit number PRI 36.
So admitted.
The next profile starts on page 516. 516. It's profile number 2755. It confirms retrieval of a body from Albert and Delvas Street on the 31st by SAPS, and it's handing over to the forensic officers of a deceased and bent body, a deceased body that is bent beyond recognition. Forensic officers acknowledge receipt of the body in a charred state on page 518. The forensic office once more points out and identifies that very same body to the doctor responsible to examine and report. That's at page 519. The doctor's report appears on page 520, and the cause of death is determined to be charring of the body. That's a notation next to the only bullet on that page. At page 522 is confirmation of retention of a DNA sample. That sample is accounted for in the handling and delivery process affidavit, which is exhibit VIC1 at paragraph 3.1.1.3. And at page 524, the doctor provides his affidavit confirming his qualifications to examine and report as he has. And pending the outcome of the DNA analysis, there has been a physical identification of the deceased, and that appears on page 525, being a statement on oath by a P.M. Kize, confirming the identification before the forensic officers of the deceased body as being that of M.M. Kize. The forensic officer confirms the appearance of the identifier on page 526. We would request that the chain of documents under profile number 2755 be admitted as annexure PRI 37.
So admitted.
May I also take this opportunity to mention, Chairperson, that if you have regard to, on that profile, if you go to page 526, you will realize that on the almost top right, there are words, serial number, and then it goes DR2755, and then there's another number 2802-2023. Ordinarily, there should be one number, but there are two there because at a point when the bodies were collected, and taken to the morgue. In this particular instance, a hand was treated as missing a body, and subsequently a body was found without a hand, and it transpired that the hand belongs to the body. And that should explain the reduction of the number of the deceased from what we have commonly accepted to be 77 to 76.
Yes.
It would be this chain of documents that explains that reduction.
It's this profile number.
It is this profile number, yeah. So the profile number 2755 and 2 would be for the body, for example, and the one for 2802 would have been for the hand.
Yes.
But they've now consolidated them into one because it was established that it is one. So in total, we are talking of 76 deceased as opposed to 77. The next profile commences on page 529. It's profile number 2785. At 529 is confirmation of retrieval of a body from Delvas on the 31st by SAPS, which was handed over to forensic services with a description, deceased spent. The last part is not legible, but on the next page, the word recognition, it must be beyond recognition, appears. 531 is acknowledgement of receipt of the deceased body by the forensic office. Yet again, the forensic office on page 532 identifies that very same body to the doctor assigned to compile a medical legal report, whose outcome commences on page 533, and it records the cause of death as open flame burns. Proof of retention of a DNA sample is recorded in the medical legal report on page 535. That it was properly handled and delivered to the lab for analysis is properly accounted for in Exhibit VIC 1 at paragraph 3.6.3.4. On page 537, the doctor provides an affidavit setting out his qualifications to examine and report as he has. Pending the outcome of the lab analysis, there has been identification that appears on page 538. N.I. Ngubani confirms having identified the deceased body as being that of an N. Ngubani, and the forensic officer before whom the identification was done confirms same on page 539. We then request, Chairperson, that profile number 2785 be admitted as an exhibit PR 38.
So admitted.
The next profile, number 2802, commences on page 542. It confirms retrieval of a body from Delvas on the 31st, which is handed over to forensic office. The description is not very legible, but the word bent is recognizable at the bottom. At page 544, the forensic officer acknowledges receipt of the body as completely charred and some other description. At page 545, the forensic officer points out and hands over the body to the doctor appointed to examine and report. The outcome of the report commences on page 546, and the cause of death is reported as open flame burns. On page 548 is a recordal of a retention of a DNA sample for analysis. Its handling and delivery is accounted for in Exhibit VIC 1 at paragraph 3.6.3.6. And then on page 551, the doctor sets out his qualifications to conduct the examination and to report. At page 552, pending the outcome of the DNA sample analysis, a TP Kanyele confirms on oath, having identified the deceased body as being that of NZ Kanyele, and the forensic officer before whom the identification is done confirms that on page 553. We request that the chain of documents under profile number 2808 be admitted as exhibit number PRI 39.
So admitted.
The next profile starts on page 556. Yet again, confirmation of retrieval of a body from Albert and Delvas on the 31st by SAPS, and that it was handed over to the forensic office. The description is that of a body bent beyond recognition. It should be. The second page is missing. At page 557, the forensic office confirms receipt of the body in question, which on the 2nd of September is pointed out at page 558 to the doctor responsible for examining the body and compiling a report. That is done and is reported on page 559 onwards. Below Roman figure 4 at page 559, the cause of death is open flame burns. At 561, the report confirms the retention of a sample for analysis, and that sample's handling and delivery to the lab is accounted for in Exhibit VIC 1 at paragraph 3.6.3.7. Pending the outcome of that analysis, the body was identified, and that appears at page 564 and 565. At 564, an M. Nkomo identified the body as being that of B. Nkomo, and the forensic officer before whom the identification occurred confirms that at 565. At 563, which I omitted, is the doctor's stated qualifications and experience to compile the report. We request that profile number 2809 be admitted as exhibit number PRI 40.
So admitted.
The next profile number is 2814. It commences on page 568. SAPS through Sotetsi, Constable Sotetsi confirms retrieval of a body from Delvas and Albert on the 31st. and that the deceased was burnt beyond recognition and handed over to the forensic office. At page 570, the forensic office confirms receipt of the deceased body. And further, at 571, the forensic office confirms the pointing out and identification of the body to the doctor assigned to examine and report. That the doctor does from page 572 and finds the cause of death as being consistent with smoke inhalation. At page 574 is confirmation of the retention of a sample for analysis, and its handling and delivery to the lab is accounted for in Exhibit VIC 1 at paragraph 3.8.3.3. At page 575, the doctor sets out in an affidavit form his qualifications to examine and report. And then at page 576, a VM Ajida confirms his appearance before a forensic officer and that he identified the deceased body as being that of an L. Mwabajila. The forensic officer confirms the identification on page 577. We request then that profile number 2814 be admitted as exhibit number PRI 41.
So admitted.
The next profile number is on page 582. Confirmation of retrieval of a body from Corner Albert and Delvers on the 31st, with a notation that the deceased was burnt beyond recognition and that the body was handed over to the forensic office, who at page 584 acknowledge receipt of the body, and who further at page 585 confirm pointing out and identifying that very same body to the doctor responsible for examination and reporting. The report commences on page 586, and the cause of death below Roman figure 5 is flame burns and smoke inhalation. At page 590 is proof of retention of a DNA sample that is yet to be analyzed. Its handling and delivery to the lab is properly accounted for in Exhibit VIC 1 at paragraph 3.2.5. And at page 591, the doctor sets out in an affidavit his skill and expertise that qualifies him to examine and report as he has done. At page 592, VM Ajida, once more, confirms having appeared before a forensic officer and identified that deceased body as being that of S. John. And at page 593, the forensic officer before whom the identification was made confirms Ajida's appearance before him and identification. We then request that profile number 2793 be admitted as exhibit number PRI 42.
So admitted.
Then the next profile commences on page 596. Deceased body is noted to have been removed from Corner Albert and Delvas Street on the 31st of August. The description below is that it was extensively bent. At the top, we see that it was handed over to a Tobani who is with forensic services. At page 598, Tobani confirms receipt of that body. And at page 599, still in that office, another officer confirms, pointing out that the same body and identifying it to the doctor responsible for examining it and reporting on it. The doctor's report commences on page 600, and the cause of death just above the dated line is smoke inhalation, carbon monoxide poisoning. For identification purposes, the doctor confirms at page 602, having retained a DNA sample whose handling and delivery to the lab is properly accounted for by SAPS at paragraph 3.5.2. At page 604, the doctor confirms his qualifications to examine and report as he or she has. And pending the outcome of the analysis at the lab, at page 605, VM Ajida once more appears before a forensic officer and identifies the body as being that of a T. Luxon. The forensic officer confirms the identification exercise on page 606 of the papers. We would then request Chairperson that profile number 2752 be admitted as exhibit number PR43.
So admitted.
Then the second last profile commences on page 609. Yet again, SAPS confirms retrieval of a body from Corner Albert and Delvas. The inscription of the date there is 30 August. That must supposedly be an error. The notation at the bottom of the report is that the body had extensive burns. That the body was handed over to forensic officers is confirmed on page 611, where its receipt is acknowledged as being in a state that was completely charred. On page 612, a forensic officer confirms handing over the body to the doctor assigned to examine the body and report on it. At 613 is the outcome of the examination, and it notes the cause of death just above the dated at line as open flame burns. Proof of retention of a DNA sample is noted in the report on page 615, and its handling and delivery to the lab was properly accounted for in exhibit number VIC1, paragraph 3.6.3.2. At page 617, is the doctor's qualifications to conduct the examination and report as he has. And then at page 618 is a statement on oath by an S.K. Kola, confirming appearing before a forensic officer to identify the deceased body as being that of W. Mbwanja. The forensic officer confirms the identification process on page 619. We then request that the chain of documents under profile number 2765 be admitted as exhibit number PRI 44.
So admitted.
Then the last profile commences on page 620. It records the retrieval of a deceased body from Delvas and Albert in a bent state, and in a bent and unrecognizable state, as it appears at the bottom. It also records that it was handed over to the forensic office, who acknowledged receipt of that body on page 623. From that very same office, at page 624, is proof of pointing out an identification of that body to the doctor assigned to examine and report. The doctor's report is on page 625, and under letter B, it determines the cause of death as, it says, under investigation awaiting carbon hemoglobin analysis. Just above that, at Roman figure 4, below Roman figure 4, interestingly, the report notes that this is a body of a black adult female with a history of dying in a fire. Post-mortem examination shows no burns on the body, but there is soot in the airways consistent with smoke inhalation, I imagine. On page 628 is proof of retention of a DNA sample, which once more is accounted for as having been properly handled and delivered to the lab. That appears in Exhibit VIC1, at paragraph 3.6.2.2. At page 629, the doctor sets out his or her qualifications to examine and report. And then at page 630 is a statement on oath by an R. Mahdi, confirming that they appeared before the forensic officers and identified the body as being that of J. Mofati, and the forensic officer before whom the identification occurred confirms that on page 631. We would request, Chairperson, that profile number 2800 be admitted as exhibit number PRI 45.
So admitted.
The presentations to date should take the tally to 69 of 76. The 6 that is outstanding is in the process of being compiled, and we anticipate to close this exercise during the course of next week.
Okay.
Chairperson, that would be the end of the proceedings for the day, and we would request that the proceedings adjourn until Monday at 10.
What is the date on Monday?
That will be 18 March.
18.
18 March.
Yes.
Correct.
These proceedings are adjourned until the 18th of March at 10 hours. We'll be starting with the cross-examination of Ms. Botes.
That's what I understand, Chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Mnyando? Thank you.